Welcome to Translate This, a podcast about language, culture, life, and the hilarity of it all. I am Melissa.
I'm Richard.
And we are here to
Translate
this.
this.
And like every week, we have no idea who's presenting what. This week, Richard's presenting.
I am. And I'm so glad you, the last episode, it was fun and educational. Mine, we're going to go down a serious note.
Oh no. Well, so for those listening, and if this is your first time joining us, last time I was speaking about significance between letters and numbers, and you can go on our website and get that information.
Yeah.
So
I titled this for a shout out to all the teachers, educators, instructors, trainers out there in the world. The title is My Student Has PTSD.
Oh no.
And
oh no.
Yeah. But it's actually I wrote this, I researched this 6 months ago, and now I'm presenting it with the Ukraine war happening right now. I think it's even more pertinent with millions and millions of people being displaced.
Okay.
It's a big topic that a lot of educators may not have sufficient training about this topic.
Right.
So I'm going to break this up into 3 areas. The first area is just basic knowledge, going over the basic knowledge of PTSD and statistics, and I'll cite my sources. The second part is how it affects learning, and especially in language learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part is what can instructors do about it.
Great.
Yeah. So
we need to offer some help.
Oh, we want to end in a positive, fun note always.
I would like that too, personally.
Take people down the dark hole and bring them back out.
Yeah. Well, and I want to also preface this because both of us have taught low SES classrooms most of our career.
Yes.
And when we left public education and we're instructing, and predominantly you instructing people of different backgrounds, it wasn't necessarily low SES anymore. And I know for me, for a fact, I was, with sports retailer executives.
Right.
So definitely not. And so I think that it's important that people know that we have had decades of experience teaching low SES and socioeconomic status classrooms.
Yes.
And I don't even think that PTSD, as far as I know, and you're going to teach me about this, as far as I know, it can affect any person anytime in their life, no matter their socioeconomic background. So the reason I'm bringing up who we taught is because I don't want people to think, hopefully people won't think this is just for people who are poor or in the war or coming from third world countries. This is a topic that's going to affect any culture at any economic status.
Right. And that's what I wanted to debunk. The myth of PTSD is not just war veterans. And still, there's a lot of people that still think that. And that's actually the first part of it is who has it, who can get it. But I also want to bring some personal stories into it and why it's important to me. And I've had a number of students who were maybe somewhere officially or unofficially labeled with PTSD, and the behaviors were not, we weren't trained to look for them. And so it was so easy to label them as bad students, or flighty students who just don't come. They come once in a while. All these different behaviors that come, and we label them as unteachable, and we have no idea what they're going through. Also, so yes, when you mentioned our experience, yes, it's been there, whether sometimes we know it or not. We've had that experience teaching. My father, without me even knowing it, he had it and he hid it from me. He died when I was 21, and he had signs of PTSD. And sorry if I don't think we actually spell it out as post-traumatic stress disorder. Sorry about that. Should have brought it up. Well, this is the beginning, so the introduction. He witnessed abuse when he was young, and he did also go to the Vietnam War. The effects of all that really disallowed me from getting to know him as a person, I think. And so when I'm around people, whether they're students or anyone, I always look deeper into what the problem is, because I saw in my father that, or imagined in my father, the things that he had seen that I never did.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand that he may have been hiding a lot from me to protect me, you
That
know.
must have been really, really difficult for you.
It wasn't difficult at the moment, but like as time passed,
Mm-hmm.
that time heals a lot, you know, and you
Yeah.
start to look and reflect on the things he did well, the things he did for me to raise me, and
Right.
not so much focus on what he didn't do. He basically protected me from his past, and I think bringing up his past was hurtful for him, and he
Yeah.
didn't want to share that hurt. And I respect that. I
Mm-hmm.
respect that. It's old school.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't grow up around a culture of openness and going to therapy. You
Right.
know, he was that generation.
Well, heck, neither
Mhm.
did I. Neither did
Yeah,
our generation. It
yeah.
wasn't
It wasn't
till
until later.
now, till later,
Yeah,
that people
yeah,
started openly saying, "I'm in therapy and I'm proud of it."
yeah. So going a little bit out of order, but I just want to give a basic definition. What is PTSD? Post traumatic stress disorder. This is a source from American Psychiatric Association. Post traumatic stress disorder is a psychiatric disorder that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, such as a natural disaster, serious accident, a terrorist attack, war, combat, or rape, or have been threatened with death, sexual violence, or serious injury. That's the actual definition. What types of people get labeled with PTSD? The past so many decades, we've labeled veterans, war veterans, as having it. Now, studies have come out. Many, many other types of people who have not been in any type of official war can get it, right? They can get it in their own home. Tell me what you've heard recently, Melissa. People or groups of people that are being labeled with PTSD now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you brought up Ukraine.
Mhm,
I'm certain that that's going to lead to many people being labeled with PTSD because they are having to just pick up in the middle of the night and take off. Well,
mhm,
as you know, our sponsor, Barbier International, has an office in Guatemala City,
mhm,
and we know Guatemalan culture because of my family's background, and you're living there,
mhm,
and we know that that was the indigenous people and many people in general
mhm,
have been labeled with PTSD in that country because of the trauma of
mhm,
war, violence, all of the things you think of in living in a situation like that.
mhm,
But I mostly think because those are the big ones.
yeah,
But me
mhm,
personally,
mhm,
when I think of PTSD,
mhm,
I think of our students
mhm,
and gun violence in school.
yeah, yeah.
That for me
Oh
is
my
the number
gosh.
one thing.
Yeah, of course.
It's massive mass shootings
Mhm,
in theaters, supermarkets,
mhm,
and all usually related back to some kind of school setting. I think of
right.
Sandy Hook, you know,
Mhm.
and oh my gosh, I have terribly forgotten the name of in Florida, producer Lauren,
Oh, the high school.
Pulse,
Mm.
the
Pulse
Pulse
nightclub
nightclub,
in
the Pulse
Orlando.
nightclub
Mhm,
in Orlando.
mhm,
Again,
yeah,
that's horrifying. Yeah, and that club,
mhm,
people people were literally being dragged out if they survived by other people
mhm,
trying to help them survive what had happened. There's just too many too many episodes of violence in the United States,
mhm,
and that's for me
yeah,
on a very small scale.
mhm,
That's why I'm here. That's a small PTSD moment in my life. Why I
mhm,
live in a different country.
mhm,
I could not tolerate living in the United States anymore for that reason, for fear of walking out and never coming home because somebody randomly pulled a gun
yeah.
out.
We're not taking consider in consideration just being a citizen in our country where our
Right.
gun laws are the way they are and
Yep.
our gun culture is the way it is. We don't really look at how it affects us.
And I want
Watching
to
the
go,
news.
yeah, and I want to go back to also what you said about your father, because like your father, my father also had PTSD for almost the identical reasons.
Mhm,
His family, there was a history of violence in his family,
mhm,
spousal abuse.
Right.
And then he went to the Vietnam War,
Mhm.
and then there was worse than that afterwards was, uh, his alcoholism
Right.
and contributing all that to his alcoholism, which
Right.
eventually killed him.
Yeah.
I know your father sadly passed away of cancer,
Yes.
and I think you might have had a brighter history,
Mhm.
or shared experience
Right.
with your father as you turned and became a man. You may
Mhm.
have been able to have him open up.
Mhm.
There was no chance with my father.
Okay.
He was so deep down
Yes.
into that he just completely closed up, and it consumed him.
Yeah.
But I know that, related to those things, you and I were both raised to respect weapons
Mhm. Mhm.
and understand guns
Yeah.
and not take them for granted, and
Right.
not understand the impact of what they
Mhm.
could do to other human
Mhm.
beings. And I think that the lack of education
Yeah.
about gun usage
Right.
in the United States is
Mhm.
contributing to so much of the violence as
Yeah.
well. There's a lack of respect to
Mhm.
arms in general. I personally have my own personal opinions. Like, I don't think people need to have semi-automatic rifles in their
Mhm.
home.
Mhm.
I don't think that that's a good thing. I understand the need to have weapons, and I don't think that the Second Amendment should be taken
Mhm.
away, but
Mhm.
I definitely think it's been so perverted
Yeah.
for people's use, and they
P
hide behind that.
It's
It's
politicized.
politicized,
Yeah.
and that is ruined what
Yeah.
it was originally set up,
Right.
because I think, yeah, if what's happening in Ukraine,
Mhm.
if you have a chance to arm yourself to defend yourself
Mhm.
right there in the moment,
Right.
heck yeah, you're gonna do it.
Right.
But I also think that in the United States,
Mhm.
because of the mentality of we're gonna just have our guns ready,
Mhm.
people abuse that.
Right.
People get those guns, they go out and they
Mhm.
kill people
Mhm.
needlessly.
Right.
And then now people are doing 3D imprinting. I just learned yesterday from producer Lauren that somebody that is available. It's People are able to do this now. They're
Yeah.
able to actually print guns at
Yes.
home that have
There's no metal.
there's no serial number.
Mhm. Right.
So you can just use a gun that nobody's gonna be able to trace
Mhm.
and kill people.
Okay.
So that's my PTSD moment. I know it's totally off
I'm gonna
topic.
No. Well, I'm
It's
glad you paused so I can add a
Yeah, I'm
little thing in there.
sorry.
It's
I
okay.
feel a little passionate about
I
this one.
But it's I know this brings up a lot of impassioned talks, and because it's really affected us in ways we may really never understand, you know. My main purpose is to point out that this is in training, and as educators, we
Yeah.
are confronting people with PTSD
Mhm,
without knowing it many
mhm.
times.
Including some of our fellow educators.
Yes, and then that's whole nother topic that we can get in a little bit later. But I do want to get some statistics to get our listeners of an understanding of
Yeah.
how prevalent this is.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
ready? American Psychiatric Association, again, source, says that an estimated 1 in 11 people will be diagnosed with PTSD in their lifetime. Women are twice as likely as men to have PTSD. Three ethnic groups, US Latinos, African Americans, and American Indians, are disproportionately affected and have higher rates of PTSD than non Latino whites. That's from that source. So 1 in 11, if we look at that number, and if you're in charge of that number of people, you have at least one person who is going to deal with this issue in your environment, in your room, classroom,
Yeah.
or training room, wherever you work at. And then, really quick, I want to get this, talk about this too. Can you get PTSD indirectly? And this is actually really important because if it doesn't happen to you directly, people assume that you don't have it, but you can get it indirectly,
Yeah, like
right?
secondhand smoke?
Right, secondhand smoke. You could die from it. Same thing with PTSD. You might not be abused, but if you witness it, you have also PTSD. And that's where a lot of our young people, our students, are getting it. They
Yeah.
may not directly be getting it, but they see it, whether
Right.
it's their family members, friends, street violence,
Right.
and that's really important to understand. Since they do not directly receive it, they may not go seek help. they may not know how to process it, and they say, "Well, it didn't happen to me, so I'm okay. I'll go, and go on with my life." But then it hits you in ways.
And that's where
Mhm.
I wanna say to the education system, particularly the US education, the most underfunded education system that I know of.
Yeah.
Student counselors
Yeah.
and psychologists that
Mhm.
used to be psychologists, and
Yeah.
then they just became school counselors.
Mhm.
They don't exist in many schools
Yeah.
anymore.
They've been cut back a
They've
lot.
they've been cut back a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
and there's no one for them to go talk to
Mhm.
about these things, and how are they going to process what they're
Yeah.
experiencing?
Yeah. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah,
The school psychologists, counselors are either overworked, they don't have time to help, actually one-on-one conversations, connections with students, but also, yeah, they're all sometimes working in 2 or 3 different schools,
yeah,
so that's just part of the bigger problem is lack of education funding.
mhm.
It's always been the problem. It's always been my number one topic of, you want to talk about our problems in our country, let's talk about lack of funding of education.
We were just having this discussion the other day,
Uh-huh.
you and I, about this particular thing, and I had no idea
Hmm.
that we would be talking about it here.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to continue the conversation. But you mentioned the fact that when I said the underfunding, and then you mentioned the trillions of dollars though that are spent in military spending,
Yeah. The highest
and
in the world.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so that I believe
Hmm.
in my own, complete lack of credible way,
Hmm.
that that's a direct correlation.
Yes.
Like, it has to be.
Always is, and it's not. I remember in the '80s there was it was a bumper sticker that said something like, "Because all the money is going towards weapons, we have to bake cookies to raise money for our schools," something like that. I don't
Pretty
remember,
much.
but you know what I mean? It was so poignant
Yeah.
and like,
But you can't bring home baked goods anymore either.
there that goes.
That's gone.
Yeah.
I miss those days. I used
Mhm.
to love it when parents would bring cupcakes to the
Yeah.
classroom. That was the
Yeah.
best.
So the next part of our topic is, how does it affect learning specifically? What cognitive processes happen when you have PTSD in the classroom?
Wow.
And it's particularly language classrooms because there's a lot of, you're learning in every classroom,
Right.
but like there's specific ways of learning in language classrooms. Oh yeah, and I also wanted to say there is online. This is really interesting. Online, you can find out if you have PTSD. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a website called minddiagnostics.org. You can take a test on the online to see if you have it. And that's
Wow.
just really important for people to know because we could go through our lives
Yeah.
without even knowing it.
So if somebody takes a test like that, then they come up, they're like, okay, I have PTSD. Then what do you think they should do next?
Seek help first, number one. And I can't advocate any particular places because
Because you're not a licensed
yeah, I'm
therapist.
not a licensed therapist, but seek help. Like
Yeah.
find someone first that can guide you
Yeah.
to the right place in your organization, in your job, in your company. Make it real. Put light on it because if you
Right.
don't, we're all just suffering through our days without really acknowledging what we're suffering with.
Have to bring awareness to it.
Yeah. So, how does it affect learning? And one of the main areas that it affects is memory and concentration.
See, now that's interesting because
Hmm.
that ties back to the episode we just had about learning base tens, or right? And
Hmm.
so your numbers, and
Yes.
about how irregular English words are,
Uh huh.
and how it's much more difficult for American English or just English speakers to learn base 10
Right.
versus Asian,
Uh
in
huh.
particular Chinese
Hmm.
students, this article that I had quoted,
Hmm.
because their words were not irregular.
Hmm.
So adding things like that already exist to
Hmm.
learning math,
Hmm.
and then adding PTSD
Hmm.
in language
Yeah.
and math,
Right.
which are the two most fundamental things we learn in school
Hmm.
that we can learn everything else from,
Hmm.
that layer, it's almost like it's just gonna kill what comes
Yeah.
next.
Just imagine the struggle.
Yeah. I
The
just
struggle, and it's really heartbreaking to see young people being blamed for what they struggle with as
right.
being labeled as bad or not willing to learn. It's happening in an epidemic level.
Do you think that these kids are getting overly medicated? Do you think they're just getting labeled like it's ADHD or the anxiety and depression, but they're missing the PTSD because the ADHD maybe or the OCD or the anxiety depression are symptoms of the PTSD?
I'm only going to speak from my experience, but if you only look at their behavior
Mhm.
and then you look for medication for that behavior, how are
Mhm.
you going to know why they're behaving that way?
Yeah.
So if someone is fidgety, okay, give them a drug, give them Adderall or,
Mhm.
Ritalin or whatever. And, but we're not going to spend time finding out why that student's fidgety
Right.
can't concentrate past 10 minutes.
You and I
So,
both had a lot of experience with coping,
mhm,
teaching coping skills.
yes,
And
yes.
so and even like when you and I know you as a language teacher,
Mhm,
you're very good at helping people understand how to learn.
mhm.
That's one of the best skills that you have as a language
Yeah,
teacher.
yeah. And I owe it to my experience dealing with a lot of young people with many challenges. And if I didn't adapt my teaching style,
Mhm.
then I would not have any success. I mean, to teach unsuccessfully is not acceptable, but it happens.
To you.
Yeah. I mean, it happens, but like, why continue?
Yeah.
Why doing anything when you're not succeeding? You got to find a way to succeed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know it's a complicated topic about education in general and why our education system is failing. And you can look at all the statistics saying that, in particular, our American education is way behind. And it's with my experience, it's not complicated to understand why. It's
Hmm.
because we're not trained. Educators are not trained properly to deal with a lot of the struggles that students are dealing with.
Yeah.
I want to get nerdy on why the PTSD affects memory and concentration. There's a great website, TESL, Ontario, Canada. Teaching English as a second language, Ontario, Canada, came up with a lot of information dealing with teaching with PTSD. And it says that the areas of the brain affected by trauma are part of the limbic system, which is responsible for things like emotions, memories, regulation of aggression. Ooh,
Yeah.
all right,
Right there.
right there. Pain, organizing motor behavior, and coordinating rule based habit learning.
Yeah.
So, if you have a trauma, you have trouble organizing and coordinating rule based habit learning.
Yeah.
Isn't that
And
exactly?
that's exactly what school is.
Yeah, yeah. So you have students that act out, students that do all kinds of things. Maybe it's PTSD and it's never been addressed.
Yep.
So this is where I really wanted to pinpoint because we are failing our students. We are failing them in high proportions at an epidemic rate through public education and in private education also. And even in adult education, we have to look at all types of educational environments in which adults, for example, who have PTSD, they can quit because they don't know how to cope with the learning or the environment they're in.
Right. So you think, okay, so
Mhm.
and you can answer this later, but
Okay.
I want to get back to that.
Mhm.
Remember the quitting
Mhm.
and job jumping millennial
Yeah.
things going.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll get back to
Okay.
that because I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Some more facts. Forgetting appointments is another thing. Specific details of past events. These are things I'm going over that are affected by PTSD.
Hmm.
Flashbacks, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, anxiety, avoidance, changes in mood, thinking, and sleep depravity. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Depravity.
depravity.
And words, like actual words,
You just
are lost.
don't know them
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Not only does that affect you in a language class, but remember, we had this conversation in another podcast about how we don't use enough words to label our emotions.
Exactly.
And so if we're actually eliminating words from our language just by not learning them because we don't have the capacity to learn more, we can't identify what we're going through and what we're dealing with.
Right. And then if we can't do that, then we can't be fully aware
Hmm.
of or actualized and evolved.
Yes. Yes. That's how we need to evolve is,
Yeah.
um,
That's so
yeah,
sad.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it okay. Do you remember the famous study of and I can't remember the actual academic, study, but it's the famous study about the monkeys being touched and not touched? The
Um,
the primate
uh-huh.
study that they did,
Yeah.
and it's a horrible, cruel study,
Okay.
and I believe it started with primates, it might have started with other animals, but they isolated a primate, a baby,
Mhm.
and it died
Oh, wow.
because it
That's
had food and it had water,
oh
but it
my
had no
gosh.
touch.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right, and now there's a term
Yeah.
for the children of war, especially in the orphanages in the Soviet Union.
Mhm.
That's where they have found them a lot,
Uh-huh.
when it was still the Soviet Union,
Right.
where these children that it's a and I forgot the name of the actual disorder. It starts with an R, but, it's something like it's like an acronym. It's like something like REDS or
Mhm.
something like that, where they have had such little touch
Yes.
that they cannot connect emotionally
I
with other
can't
humans.
kinda like not like robotic, but like
Almost,
yeah.
almost where you would now if somebody saw something like this,
Yeah.
they would say, "Oh, that syndrome," they would think, "Oh, are you on the spectrum?
Mhm.
Do you have
Mhm.
Asperger's?"
Mhm.
Or are you,
Yeah.
in the autism spectrum where
Yeah.
you can't emotionally connect, but it
Mhm.
has nothing to do with that. Has to do with the fact that because they were not shown enough love and they had so much of that pulled
Mhm.
from them.
Mhm.
So then imagine moving forward, uh, and you don't have that syndrome, you have too much touch,
Yeah.
physical abuse
Right, right. 2 extremes.
to extremes. And then
Yeah.
the other side of it is then you got PTSD.
Mhm.
So in that case, one case you die, in the other case you possibly still die at the
Mhm.
hands
Mhm.
of a person abusing you, but you die in so many other ways inside
Mhm. Yeah.
from the abuse.
Um,
And you're just
shout
yeah.
out shout out to all the volunteers
Oh
who
gosh, yeah.
went to, I read about this, to the Polish border and
Mhm.
are basically,
Mhm.
just holding babies
Yep.
because the parents are not there for various reasons, and they're
Yep.
just because that touch you're talking about,
Yep.
and just multiple babies, and they're just holding them,
And
going around.
did you see the strollers that were being left
Yeah,
at the train
that's
stations?
yeah, that's very visually striking,
Yeah.
that, was a good thing to do to really make that point,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
That's good. It's
I
wow.
mean, we have to look at when you're thinking of PTSD as a student in your classroom, you're thinking, okay, how much love has this child received?
Yeah.
Have they had enough physical touch? And then that goes well, I know of a teacher who had a student that every time the student got upset,
Mhm.
the student decided to take their clothes off.
Wow. Wow.
And it was obviously out of
Mhm.
PTSD and out
Right.
of abuse,
Yeah.
but that was their way of trying to, connect
Mhm.
with somebody.
Mhm.
I mean, it elicits so many behaviors,
Yeah.
and we're just now trying to understand that
Mhm.
as an organization in
Mhm.
education, and
Yeah.
there's nothing that we can do
Mhm.
as teachers until we have solid
Yeah.
courses on
Yeah.
how to work with students with PTSD and mental disorders and emotional disorders of any kind. I
Mhm.
didn't get that training. You didn't get that training, not in
Yeah.
college.
And what's more infuriating is that now we know more information
Yeah,
about, all of these challenges, but now we have less and less funding to be trained.
right.
So it's almost like, oh yeah, we know this, but we can't train it, there's not enough funding. It's
So sad.
yeah, yeah. But my last part is a very positive part, and
Good.
it is what can language instructors, teachers can do. What can they do in general to confront this issue and to create an environment in which there's positivity for this
Yeah.
student, for
Yeah.
people with PTSD? Because there are a lot of successful strategies, methods. It's some that I have done personally,
Mhm.
consciously knowing that this is what needs to be done for the students, and also the website that I mentioned, TESL Ontario, Canada. And here's some of them. And oh, number one, we have to say this: all you educators out there, you are not miracle
Nope.
workers.
No,
You are
you're not.
not.
You're a human being
Do not.
with emotions.
This is just, in fact. these are strategies to actually help you teach or do less in the classroom. This is to alleviate more work.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's not adding more, it's changing what you're doing. Okay. So, all you out there, understand to add more things to your to-do list is already stressful. So, I'm saying this in a way to say, do some changes. Take away things you're doing that can add stress and add things that alleviate stress.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's really important to make sure that people, students, are getting sleep and water and diet. That's number one. You can't battle this topic if they're not sleeping, they're not getting enough nutrients and stuff like that.
And
That's
what do we call that pyramid? The hierarchy?
the food pyramid. What?
No, not
No.
the food pyramid.
What
Sorry,
pyramid?
no. Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm gonna be
Okay.
nerdy with you.
Good. Get nerdy. So, yeah. So, making sure that we're not just talking about kids here. We're talking about adults. Adults, yeah, have to be reminded to get more sleep, get more
Yeah.
water, hydrate, stuff like that.
Teachers, drink those water bottles
Yeah,
and sleep.
exactly. That helps with concentration. If your student can't concentrate, guess what? It's only going to lead to more problems with
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
Push that, put it on, make it a mantra to remind people, sleep more. I told my son that, and he's already grown up, and he likes to stay up and watch TV late at night. He goes to work and he doesn't perform his best. And I go,
Mhm.
well, what about sleeping more? And he agreed,
Yep.
and he's sleeping more now. So,
That
simple,
you know what?
simple things.
That is the plague
Mhm.
of this new generation that
Yeah,
they don't sleep.
yeah, yeah. There's apps, the wonderful phone, sometimes our enemy, but right now our phone,
Uh-huh.
there's apps that you can download that help with meditation,
I love
calming.
those.
Yeah, those are all great, and these are easy things you can recommend people,
Mhm.
and
And they're free.
yeah, and they don't take your time. One thing I always remember, one student in the past who came to class once a week and kind of strolled in 20 minutes late, and they get you normally most teachers would make them feel bad for that, and
Mhm.
or punish them or whatever. And I learned over the years not to do that, and to
Mhm.
totally welcome them in
Mhm.
when they come.
Mhm.
And if they learn 20% of
Mhm.
something, that's 20% they got instead of zero because I ridiculed them. Right.
That's because you're an amazing educator that's empathetic to people like
Empathy.
that.
Well, it's empathetic. And see,
Yeah.
this was an example of what I'm trying to say is like these are strategies that don't add to your stress.
No.
This is you're taking away that stress. Like if you
Yep.
get upset at that student, well, that's stress for you,
Right.
right? And you're adding stress to your environment.
Right.
You can choose to say welcome and we're glad to see you. And that is it.
I wonder, by you doing that also, how much that had to affect them actually continuing to come back, even if it was just the once a week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the end, that student continued to the end of the year and was I was teaching Spanish at the time, and he chose to speak Spanish to me outside of class. So, and he failed every test, but it wasn't about the tests. It
No.
was about connection and
Yeah.
relationship. So,
You hear that, America? It's never about the
it's never
test.
about the test.
It really isn't.
Yeah, and I came up with some easy I'm going to give you all you educators out there, especially in any type of public school or any educational system where you're doing points, is a lot of students with PTSD don't want to participate. And when they feel left out, then they tune out.
Yeah.
So here's a strategy to keep them tuned in, even though they don't participate.
Mhm.
I gave a point system in which every student who performed or participated got 4 points, and those who sat and listened got 2. And so now the students who have struggles that day don't have the energy to participate. At least they are tuned in
Right.
and they're learning, and they value that. They valued the 2 points. They
Right.
wanted it,
Mhm.
and they love that option.
Mhm.
And so, is that more work for you? No, it's actually less work because now they're not going to disrupt the class. They're
Right.
not going to fall asleep and snore,
Mhm.
or,
Mhm.
or do other things.
Mhm.
They're engaged. And so,
And
like
they
I
don't
said,
have to feel unaccomplished if you go around randomly and call on them and they don't have an answer to give you.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of strategies I can go over, but those are some. but passionate topic for me, as you can tell.
Might be a extra podcast in the
It
works.
could be. It could be. There's some things that we mentioned, like teachers and
Yeah.
PTSD,
Yeah.
and or other struggles.
But I mean, this is translate this, right? So we're
Yeah.
always talking about how we can take a topic and translate it into a learnable. Does that that's not
Yeah.
even, you know what I mean? Like how do we extrapolate what we're thinking about and put it in a way that people from any walk of life
Mhm.
can understand and take something away from what we're trying to
Mhm. Mhm.
communicate,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That
Mhm.
we're trying to weave a connection to
Absolutely.
any place setting.
Yeah. It's language. There's so many things connect with language. It's amazing
Yeah.
how, what's great about this podcast is that there's so much more under the layer of just translations and language.
Yep.
A quick reminder, if you want to know more strategies about connecting with students with PTSD or any other relations in which there's education,
Mm-hmm.
TESL Ontario, Canada. That's where I got my information, and I encourage you to look it up. And
And there's others too.
oh
There's
yeah,
that's a
Google it.
good source. But yeah,
Google it.
you just need to
Yeah,
Google it, and they're
yeah,
they're out there.
for sure.
And if you want to know more about what we do, you can always follow us also on social media.
There you go.
So we have a Facebook, which is facebook.com, obviously. It's now Meta, but I don't know. They're going to keep
There
it
you go.
Facebook / translate this podcast, which is kind of funny when you say it all together. Translate this podcast.
Translate this.
And then we got translate this website, right? So we've got translate this -podcast.com. And then we have translate.this.podcast as our Facebook username.
Don't forget the dot.
The dots are important at translate.this.podcast. And our Instagram is at translate_this_podcast. And we do have a YouTube channel. We will be putting up some art. And eventually I hear some information that might be coming to us about merch.
Okay.
So
all right.
if you like the artwork on our website, you may have an opportunity to purchase some of those graphic tees or
rock the tee.
Yeah, or some hoodies or even our logo. Yeah. And then you'll find on our website, you'll find connections on how to get a hold of us through email. But I really appreciate, Richard, that you have addressed something that is very sensitive to most listeners. And
appreciate you engaging with that.
Yeah, but I think it's not really about that for me, about me engaging, because I'm always going to listen and engage with you because this is so much fun for me. But it's more about bringing awareness to such a topic in a way that most people may not have considered.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that about you, because you explain to people it's not about the fact that they have a diagnosis. It's the fact of how do we reach the people and treat them with respect and the humanity that they deserve, and they just happen to have this, and how do we still then focus on the positive and move forward. And people need to advocate for students that come from all these different backgrounds, and especially now in our current world, it doesn't look like the world will be any less violent than it's ever been.
I know. It's so much more important to bring these up and to keep focus on the real causes of our problems and education in specific. So so thank you for that, acknowledging that.
Yeah. Well, this has again been Translate This.
Translate This. Thank you for everybody for listening.
All right. Well, we'll be with you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.